I asked AI to make a cool background for Zoom, and it's a cool background, but they put the freaking Zoom window in as well with like its little like icons and things.
I thought that you had like screenshot your screen.
If you ask for like a YouTube banner or like a Facebook banner, it'll include the window in his picture. I thought that was cute.
Doing exactly what you asked.
Honest mistake. I don't know if y'all can relate to this, but my dream state doesn't only include dreaming, it also includes thinking. I'll just be asleep. I'm not in the room or anything, and I'm also not dreaming. I'm just kind of thinking. I'm just in space thinking. The thoughts that I have there are sometimes really interesting and compelling, and they feel really true and honest to me. Then I kind of wake up and they feel kind of cheesy a lot of the time, or they feel like
Okay.
out of character. So it's a really interesting generator. It says prayer, so this is just kind of like an affirmation for myself or something like a koan, almost like something to just kind of puzzle over. And the key word is the courage to embody. Kind of two parts to that, like embodying more authentic being in like this space, like to how do you wear your physical body? You know, how does your posture reflect your attitude? How does your tone of voice reflect, how comfortable you are? How, are you being real and truthful in the way that your tone presents your feelings, or what I'm calling opposed to acting out a structure. So structure in this sense would be like I'm playing a role, I'm doing a voice, I'm doing a character. I said to James like a birthday is a structure. Like we think, okay, a birthday, that
There
means
are
you
some
get gifts.
expectations of the
Yeah.
birthday person.
It's not like a natural human thing to go, okay, so, the earth has circled the sun once since the last, the last time we noticed that it was the same point in relation to the sun as it was
Hmm.
when on the day of your birth. And thus, on this day, you get gifts, we're going to have a meal, we're going to get everyone together, you're going to be treated special, you're going to make a wish. There's all this like it's a structure. Holidays are structures. Gender expectations are a structure. Your workplace roles. How do you think that people have to be in a relationship with you, like a romantic relationship? What are your expectations for what that means?
Hmm.
Does it mean you're allowed to window shop? Does it mean you can do whatever you want? Does it mean you have a responsibility to X amount of their time or energy or affection? That's a structure that you impose. What friendship means to you, what it means to hate someone, versus just like you're a really special person. I'm glad you were born. You could say that any time.
Any day of the week.
Most of what we call spiritual and most of what we strive for, what we want out of a religion is courageous embodiment. Like an example would be confession, or which is very similar in the Catholic Church, which is very similar to auditing in Scientology, which is just like a person stares at you or listens very carefully and you tell them your darkest stuff, the stuff that you don't want to tell anyone. What does it matter whether you tell someone or not? You know it either way, but you're bringing it out and you're actually wearing it in this moment. You're exposing it to it is reality. It is you're embodying it. You're acting it out. You're doing think, feel, and do of
Hmm.
what you truly are, your true nature. A lot of what the community aspect of church and sangha and religious, gatheringness, like why do you even need a group of people to do this? A lot of it is that it's like this pre-agreed upon, in the best of cases, it's
Hmm.
this kind of pre-agreed upon situation where we are encouraging one another to have that courage to embody authenticity. Can I share this like how I really feel? Like, is it okay with everyone if I don't act out a structure and instead just like, here is what I really think and here's what I really feel? Can we handle that? Is it boring? Is it stupid? Is it awkward?
It's sort of like social insurance. You can go out in the group of people that you entrust these things to and can be vulnerable with. If you go out in a situation that doesn't have those people in it, you have that social insurance that if you totally bung this up, well, that's not going to lose you the group you have. Christianity, Buddhism, whatever group you're part of, You're not going to
Interesting.
lose
Yeah.
that because you were like embarrassed yourself in front of a stranger, or you went out and you were being your authentic self in a situation and someone else didn't like that. You have this like fallback. And so because of that, you can present yourself with more charisma. You can be a little more, I wouldn't even say risky, but a little more authentic, which is a risk. Maybe
Yeah.
not everybody likes the authentic you, but you've got this group to fall back on. So it's a little bit of like social insurance to have this group.
And when you're saying that, it's actually making me go like one step further into like addiction and support groups and like men's
Mm-hmm.
groups, where it
Mm-hmm.
specifically is the case that I don't want to share this. Like where it's really, they're really saying go all out, like go
Mm-hmm.
all in, this is totally safe.
Right.
We're all totally gonna say disgusting things to one another,
Things that, yeah,
or things.
these people in the group saying to the other person, like, oh, you're a terrible person. And then it's your turn and it's worse or whatever. But yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I think that's kind of where like the rubber hits the road with our experience here, or at least my experience here, is like this Unthink Me thing is very much an experiment with me, like sharing myself authentically with the public, opening up, embodying more. My slogan was no holding back. What does that have to do with altitudes, Ken Wilber, spirituality? Genuine embodiment is like a really important aspect of pretty much all religion and spiritual observance to in some way, shape, or form. The community, the spiritual community, like we hope, I'd say, I hope to say for both of us that we hope that our audience, to a greater extent than a lot of YouTube, it's a low bar, but that our audience and we feel that sort of acceptance and an ability to be more vulnerable than typical and to be more real and to be more fallible, admit our
Hmm.
fallibility and our
Oh, yeah.
limitation. We're not a package, we're not a structure, we're not experts, we're just trying. This is kind of an experiment to see like how much can we pull out our stuff, in public and get away with it. It's like, oh wow, having done this experiment, I'm like, okay, wow, I didn't need to like keep a lot of this stuff to myself. It just wasn't necessary.
What was the fear? What was the outcome had you shared it? What was the worst case scenario?
You share a little something and someone kind of picks at you, or maybe they just don't want to be bothered with it. Maybe it's not of interest to them. Maybe it makes them feel uncomfortable, like now they have to share. Part of the problem with teenagers and all throughout history, is that they haven't experimented with this. They haven't really discovered their own thoughts and feelings. And as they do, they just don't have any experience sharing them in more and more contexts. And so they're very
Hmm.
sensitive to people shooting them down or just, looking stupid, looking uncool. Integral theory has always been kind of scary to broach with people. You worry that they'll think you're crazy or
Oh,
you're,
as soon as I
or
see
it's
any
like,
interest lost, like, okay, moving
yeah.
on.
Well, and I pushed through it a little bit more, to see if maybe I can find a little bit of common ground or a hook there. Yeah, but there definitely will be people who just any kind of vulnerability, squishiness, any kind of spiritual stuff, anything under that label, anything that resembles a hierarchy. There's all sorts of reasons. Oh, and if you are like a mythic member, true believer, this kind of hits you where it hurts, like, oh, wait,
Hmm.
that's a stage that you recognize as a stage, but not the top one. Okay, well, that's very threatening to me. And really all the stages, but that one in particular, it's grounds for immediate dismissal. It's like, no, I know the ultimate true answer.
I
This,
think,
guys, is why I call myself the devil Satan. That's why,
oh my God, here it goes. With the teenage thing, it's a little in a school setting. You don't have anywhere else to go. You will be back tomorrow. You will be back and with this group of people for years. So there is the worry that, like, if I socially ostracize myself by being completely honest and nobody likes it, well, now I'm on this island. College is different. I mean, if you completely ostracize a group, okay, go somewhere else. You're not forced daily. Work is similar, I guess, but at that age, you're with peers. You're like by design with people, a lot of people in most cities and towns, a lot of people of your exact or within a year of your age. That's tough. I'll be my authentic self right at the beginning, but I can't honestly sit here and say like I'll be infallibly
Yeah.
myself the whole time. If I
It's endless. Yeah.
yeah, if being my authentic self ostracizes me from half of these people, well, I'm going to draw that back a little bit.
There's still plenty of play there. You
Yeah,
know,
I
these,
mean, you and I through high
yeah.
school, we had a core group of 5 or 6 people. Those were our friends. And when you look at media, their view of, let's say, Clueless, for example, they literally go through and say, "This is this group. This is this group.
Yeah,
This is this
right.
group. These are
Yeah,
the
right.
cliques."
Yeah.
We didn't really have one. We were a clique of
Yeah.
5 people in a school of like 400 kids. And we were fine with that. It didn't mean we couldn't interact with any of these other groups. We just didn't really fall into anyone and didn't need to. It's not that there were times that I
We were
wanted
the
to
group
be
of kids that were being attacked by an evil killer clown from outer space.
right.
We
Yeah,
were we were the it kids.
the Goonie kids where we knew
Yeah.
that our story was the real story and everyone else was a computer player.
And notice that dynamic growing up from, teenagers. Okay, I want to be cool, being aloof, not caring about things, kind of being a dick. Really, is kind of what being cool is. And then what's a
Kind
parent?
of.
What's a dad? What's a dad vibe? It's cheesy. It's like I'm concerned about you. Oh well, I'm cool, so don't worry about it.
Thick-headed,
Yeah,
apathetic,
yeah.
walk it off.
And that's a stage of maturity. Like obviously the parent is the higher stage of maturity. It's cheesy. It's vulnerable. I care about you. I love you. That's how parents are towards kids. And they kids, get away. Don't let the other kids like see how much affection you have for me and how valuable I am to you.
Yeah,
That'll
don't
make me
don't
fodder.
hug and
Like
kiss me as a father, even though it's like a beautiful development thing, and this person
that
cares for you. Don't let anyone else ever know that.
for all you teens out there, that should be the most sexually attractive thing in the world. That your family is stable and love one another. If you have half a brain, that is what is sexually attractive.
People who are cared for, like people who
Just
can
mom
share
and
love.
dad love each other and you and the kids. Like
Yeah,
it's
right.
just a loving unit. It's not forced that way. They have a good time and they're not afraid to show it. That's
Drama where dramas do, but yeah, they've got each other's backs.
also a little bit that touches on death a little bit, and because death is like the great taboo, right? I mean, sex and death. Like we keep sex hidden for a lot of good reasons. To keep it from children, to keep it from jealous parties, whatever.
Deviants.
Yeah, like there's reasons. And then death, though, it's like it's more for us, the living, that we are insecure because there literally this moment will eventually be the moment where you're just about to die. And in fact, it is
Could
the
be.
moment where you're just about to die.
Right.
Less, more and more and more and more and more, inevitably as you go throughout your life. We have this kind of imaginary boundary between where we're at right now and death, or at least when I was young, it seemed like death was imaginary. Like, okay, somehow I'll figure out how to not die. It'll happen eventually.
Oh, okay.
I think that owning that fact of death, like this is certain. You are going to die. You don't have to figure anything out. There's no work to do because no matter what you do, you're certainly going to die. That's the noble truths. This is also part of spirituality and religion and the courage to embody the fact of your impermanence. Even as an atheist spirituality, there's that kind of existential, like when you really get that you're toast, everyone you know is toast, every pleasure is fleeting, everything is transitory. That gives you, it's sad and it sucks, but there's a certain freedom to that, and that this is the truth. Like every piece of candy is gonna make you more addicted to candy, and it's gonna hurt. I don't get to keep anything. In my scheming here, I decided I'm not trying to insinuate myself into somebody else's religion. I just started my own, and it's not even mine. It's a non-membership religion of consciousness. And so I'm trying to assemble the ingredients here. Like what do you need for a DIY, do-it-yourself, religion of consciousness, where we worship just like whatever is actually true and real. And I think this all goes hand in hand with just baseline comparative religious thought or spiritual thought, authenticity, embodiment of your actual psyche truth, the deity nature of yourself, not just accepting like your pain and your sorrow and your limitations and your mortality, but embodying them, like wearing them around, like admitting them, like almost forcefully, like making it a public matter. Hey guys, we're all animate mud. That's what we are. That's what we're doing.
Hmm.
I just wanted to encourage everybody to safely and joyously embody whatever they truly like, think, or feel about anything really, and to share that with others and experiment with sharing. Sometimes it's just a matter of you don't have much practice, and personally I find that the more I do that, the better I feel about things, and the more things kind of work out and feel appropriate.
So,
Yeah.
social experiment would be if you are uncomfortable asking a stranger for even the most modest bit of help, you've got to now internally look at, are you embodying who you are? If you're not willing to even ask a stranger for the most modest bit of help, you're probably repressing a lot of who you could be and all of that juicy charisma that you have within you because of some sort of social anxiety. So you got to say, okay, I have that social anxiety because one time somebody punched me in the face. That's probably a legitimate reason to not do that because you were taught once that it didn't, but you can break free of that.
James has said a couple times in the show, like, a great piece of criticism that he got, right?
The biggest hurdle I have to get over is that I give love without expecting anything back. I implicitly trust that the other person's best interests and mine align without really checking. And if they don't, I don't draw back that trust as quickly as maybe I should. So if we replace the word giving love with, it's not that they're not trustworthy, but they don't necessarily trust that I have their best interest in mind.
It seems
I
like
think that's
you
better.
don't want to condemn people, and you don't want to write people off, or you don't want to consider them less than or negative or something.
I see the potential in people, whether they do or not. And when it's not flourishing, I I don't give up on them so easily, which in a corporate world is not a good thing.
Yeah, right. In a lot of contexts, it could be damaging for you.
Yeah, it's not fair to myself, the leader in the situation. It's not fair to the company for paying money for things that aren't getting done. But it's also, this took me a while to figure out as well. It's also not fair to the person not doing it because they're being held to a standard that they either won't or can't meet. They're in the wrong role and they're only going to have a bad time. Like, they're not going to enjoy this if I weren't the person just kind of sort of feeding love into the situation all the time.
I mean, it seems like there's a pattern of sort of like highly valuing things that people don't generally value as much. Like, you have a cutoff point where someone is ridiculous or you just don't like something, but you seem to, with people and with movies and with life and a lot of things, you in items, you kind of elevate things. You don't have this like superlative, like I need the best, but it's like this, you kind of elevate things that are like a lot of people might overlook, like people and things.
I attribute that to dyslexia, like severe dyslexia. The more they learn about this, I've known for a very long time that dyslexia is a very blanket term. If they really put some money and some science into this, they're going to figure out that there's like 18 different things.
Yeah.
And of those 18 different things, maybe you could call 8 of them dyslexia. The other 10 are something else. Okay. So what they have discovered, and this, I just read this like last week, is people with severe dyslexia are prone to being non-biased. I've given up on the written word. It's so, the alphabet's unfair. Reading things is tough. I can read out loud like a champion, but I don't internalize anything when I read. It's really difficult to internalize anything because all of my focus is on the interpretation and not the subject matter. This thing that everyone else has, the ability to read and internalize, I don't. And so at a young age, I had to come to the acceptance that I'm different, but people still like me. And so, the non-bias thing, like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. If you're different as far as how you're bringing the world in than the majority, being non-biased kind of makes sense.
In the sense of loving, because that was how we started with it. Like, do you feel like some situations and people do give you love back more and less? Or does the
I don't know
lack
if I,
of bias...
I don't know if I recognize that either. I don't know if I would, if the reciprocated love back would be registered that much differently than the non-reciprocal. And this is
Wow.
very
Okay.
large scale. It's not like I gave you a hug and then you give me a hug. This is more
Hmm.
social activity, interpersonal communication over a timeline. It's not instant things. So no, I don't think I know the difference. So how did I
Well,
end up in a non-abusive, loving relationship? Luck, I guess. There's a method of progressive, you could call it discipline, called the accountability dial. And there's 5 stages: the mention, conversation, invitation, boundary, and then limit. I live in the mention and conversation.
yeah. Yeah.
I have a hard time progressing to the invitation. And then the end, the heat all drops. Like, okay, here we are. It's
Hmm.
this time. This wasn't done, or these things weren't done. You know why we're here. There's no surprises. Heat,
Um,
heat, 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 heat.
I think
Ice
that's
cold.
kind of clutch to it is the unwillingness to be on like the other side of a fence from someone. Like I have always found that distasteful. Like I
Hmm.
don't want to be in conflict with someone. I don't want to be fighting with someone. I like it to be, well, we're playing these roles and this
Hmm.
is my role, this is your role. That doesn't make me your enemy or something. That results in resentment because it results
Yeah.
in I want to be on your side, but you're really fighting me and I'm not fighting you, so it's unfair. And so I sneak
Hmm.
off and I'm like, okay, this is like actually fucking pissing me off, but at this point, I just am not willing to embody my own resentment. Like this is probably my biggest issue that I work out in shadow work is subconscious resentment.
Hmm.
I don't want to admit to myself that I'm angry or resentful about something, and I definitely don't want to admit it to the person that I feel it towards.
The first really 3 stages of this progression, I'm trying to help you. And if you say one word of how I can help you, it's consider it done. I want this to work out. And you're still not doing it. I can't phantom that sort of mindset. I don't get it.
That's this kind of is a big part of why like people with like disordered personalities often make good executives in our corporate with our legal system and
The
everything like
separation. Like this isn't a
narcissist.
person, this is a tool
They're
to achieve the
right.
company's goal.
They're automatically on the other side of the fence with everyone.
I have no problem beating the tar out of you verbally to get done what I need done. I
Yeah.
don't empathize. I don't think about you going home and being upset and talking to your roommates or partner or whatever about how, oh, James is a dick. Like that doesn't cross my mind at all, ever. Sociopath.
I don't really believe that that's a naturally good leader. I think that it works in a competitive model of a workplace when it is considered a competitive thing and a thing where being on top is coveted. Like everyone wants to be on top. Not it's
Hmm.
annoying and more responsibility and like
I'm
they
more
pay
of
you
a
more.
power
It
middle
sucks.
myself. I have to be able to separate the problem from Adam the person. And that's where there's some learned sociopathic powers is the problem is the chair Adam's sitting in. It's not Adam. I want to separate him from that chair for the betterment of Adam, not even the company. Every time I talk to him, I can see Adam gets upset and gets maybe the introverted model that you gave, like, oh, I go and hide and be upset about the problem. If I can separate the problem emotionally for myself and I can walk you through the emotional separation of the problem and you listen, Adam, I know you're a great guy. I know that you really care about what's going on. And here's the problem. And I don't want to take the problem out on you. So let's separate it. What's the root of this problem? What can we eliminate so that problem just
Hmm.
goes away? Now that's all we stuff. I'm on the same side of the fence as you.
It might be, and if I disagree about what the problem is, it could then that's the problem.
That would be another kind of top down type situation where if I'm talking to you, it's because something written down about the expectations of this
Right. Okay.
position is
Yeah.
being done. If you're just annoying me, I mean, not
I mean,
to,
if
if
I'm
you're just
violating your happiness or
right, if you're just
autonomy,
being annoying or something, that's part of being a leader. You don't have to love everyone that you work with. Like
sure.
that's the way of life. Look at any military movie ever. Like they will lay down their lives for each other, but then bicker the whole time. That's not a healthy work environment.
This is a context
That's
where
such
we're
a
not really
dick way.
talking specifically about the workplace. We're universalizing to psychology and stuff. So it's very
Hmm.
appropriate to talk about in your marriage or whatever, like if something bothers you, yeah, you might use the accountability dial as like a kind
Oh,
of
100%.
egg model, but
We
yeah, the
do in our
consequence,
house.
you're not going to divorce her if she like farts on you or something,
If we
that's
get to the limit,
yeah.
yeah, that is what's going to
if
happen
it
because I only have one
if
life.
so, yeah, right.
The accountability dial can be used in real life. The mention is instant. As soon as you see it, mention it.
Like again, it's about embodying as opposed to structures. So these are all kind of memes that we can use,
Hmm.
but like as you get more and more comfortable with the accountability dial as like a physical dial, then it
Oh, yeah,
becomes
or
more
yeah, whatever
conceptual or
metaphor
vague,
or
and it
analogy. Yeah.
becomes internalized until it's kind of actually like just a trait of how you interact with people. This is a case where it's you're in the role of parenting, governing, managing another person. They're in the role of parenting, managing, governing you,
Hmm.
if to the extent that they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, there's an equality there, or should be.
But I guess like the holy grail is really like ways that you could really just own all these things so much that you wouldn't even really need to have like a structure for dealing with the conflict of it,
Hmm.
because you're just so out there. Like you're saying, like check-ins, right? That's extra work that I have to do. If I just put up a
Maybe.
sign,
Right.
that's like, hey guys, never slam the toilet seat down. That's not rude unless you say it's rude. If
Well,
there's
who
two
left the
X
toilet seat
slams,
up?
yeah.
Jeremy.
If there's underlined and it's all in bold and like
Yeah,
if it's ridiculous, then
grammatical
it
error
is.
is fixed.
But I mean, if it's just a rule and I'm in the position to make that rule, then okay, that's a systemic thing, whatever.
Hmm.
But if I was really, really good at communicating, I could just get that across and it would come right to my
There's the
mind,
key.
It would just come into my mind and oh, hey, yeah, the toilet seat slamming thing, we're both comfortable because I'm making this comfortable. And that seems to annoy somebody, maybe me, really easy because,
I mean, there's two of us in the house. I'm not going to say who, but I think you know him.
yeah, to whatever extent, yeah, we're beating around the bush or we're kind of like
Right.
being coy about it. There's reasons for that. We don't want to be insensitive, but that's definitely not like embodying. That's not jumping in the cold water.
You
Yeah.
just nailed it. You climbed the steps, peeked in the Forbidden Temple, and drank in all of its beautiful light. Clear, fluid, and concise communication is the answer to everything. And the accountability is a tool to
Right.
help you structuralize and make more of a habit instead of a task of clear, concise communication. Talk about it before being too hot and James making you too hot become one problem, and they're still separate.
Like dumping behavior, it's like you build up a case because you
Hmm.
don't communicate about something. You kind of like, yeah, it's like, well, James, it's not just the stupid blanket thing.
Uh-huh.
It's that he's inconsiderate, and this is why, because he did
Uh-huh.
this and this and this. It's now this fucking rap sheet, got
Massive thing.
prosecution.
There, there are comedians who multiple and who stole it from who, it doesn't matter. It's an observation of human life. You ever been in an argument with your girl? Like, oh, okay, yeah, I've been in an argument with my partner before. You know how you might even start the argument and there's a topic, but then they start bringing up shit from last week,
Yeah.
or like, you remember that? Yeah, okay. Well, you left the toilet seat up. Well, you slept with Brittany our third after our third date. Obviously, that relationship has had no clear communication for
Yeah.
the dumping.
You
Yeah,
probably avoid the negatives. You
right.
don't
Yeah,
want to
you're
talk about
trying
the
to make
negatives.
everything sunshine and peaches every day. That's a peak and
And
valley
this is
thing.
this is why I tell you, like I know that when I'm laying awake all night in bed thinking about what I would say to somebody, what I want to say,
Hmm.
what I'm working it out. I know that that's not the way to do this, and I just want to sleep. Like,
Well,
and because I can't talk to them now, because that's me
you,
building my case. That's me like trying to
right.
rationalize how it's bigger than just these two things that happened.
I think it could. You losing sleep about it is definitely something because that means you've gone beyond this just being a tolerance almost being reached. Your tolerance is broken.
Yeah,
You're losing sleep over it.
yeah,
Now I don't want to say argument, but it sounds like argument in this specific situation. The pre-argument like prep shouldn't be if they say, then I'm going to say, or if I say this and they say this, then I'm going to backhand this back at them. It should be, let's look at this from a from a 30,000 foot view
Oh, totally. Yeah.
and just decide what is the possible outcome of this and what needs to be shared and what would just be fuel. Like discrediting the other person like an attorney does so your witness is less credible. That's
No, I
that's
what I
that's kind of
to
useless.
me it's the same process as if I were writing a treatment for a film. It's I'm just
Hmm.
trying to capture the whole thing and make sure I've got all the whole thing right and that I'm being fair. That's what I'm actually doing in that process. It's very clear to me what I'm up to. But the point was like I will then enter when I go to talk to that person, the conversation will not follow that structure and that
No.
will almost be useless because I'm not alone in my own head in that situation.
I understand what you're saying, and I'll tell you, James to Adam, the way we think isn't the same way most people think, and
Mm.
so I agree. I do very similar. It'll never. It doesn't work out. I've got this whole thing figured out, and if you would just let me explain, you would understand. Like,
Yeah.
that's not gonna work.
Or God help you if you try to write it into a letter.
Oh God, no.
That's what my mean letters folder. That's what goes in there. Is when I used
Do
to.
you just put them in there and they
Yeah,
don't? That's
and
where
they
they
just,
die on the vine,
that's it. Yeah,
and
I
then
don't
you
really do
pull them
those
out
anymore
years later
though.
for
I
a
pretty much
chuckle.
just recognize it as a waste of time at this point. Maybe it's helping me to kind of.
That's such an attack. Yeah, you could
Yeah,
that's confession. You're
yeah,
letting it out somewhere. There's some sort of outlet, and
yeah.
I would be willing to bet a hay penny that by the time you're done writing that, looking at the first paragraph, you feel less passionate about than the last paragraph. To an extent, you haven't given it up. You just wrote this whole goddamn letter, but just getting it on the page probably reduced your frustration by an nth of a percent.
The main thing I find is looking back at it like way later when I'm out of the situation. I find I'm
Mhm.
really on my side. I'm like, yeah, man, you had every right to think all that.
Oh, of course
Great
you're
job.
right.
That's great. Good job.
Only the other person would listen. If only the other person would see it my way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
In the thing that I'm talking about currently, like we had to do our podcast, so we called each other this morning, and I just told you like most of the stuff that was kind of keeping me up thinking, not stuff just for the audience, not anything related to him and I, but just completely extraneous shit. It's like that thing is it's kind of similar, I'm like building up this case, and that is slightly embodying. It's not fully embodying. It's not full confession, but it's like at least I'm admitting in the third person that this is a thing, that it exists, and I'm sharing it with a human being. Because you can fall into that pattern too, as opposed to just writing down or thinking obsessively. You can get in the
Mhm.
habit of always talking to people about your problems, talking through like all the things that have
Yeah,
bothered
then
you.
you're Debbie Downer or a gossip.
Yeah, in general, it's an annoying thing. It's something people don't want. But it's like, okay, you need to put that energy where it goes. Like in this
Hmm.
case, it's a timeline thing. Like it hasn't been appropriate for me to deal with this problem yet. So then I stay up all night and then I bombard James with it. That's two like side effects of having kind of
Which
unresolved
is,
things.
I'm always here to listen, and I hope I give some. I mean, I throw a couple veiled jokes in once in a while, but I am intentional. I hope it benefits you in any kind of way to throw either a third party perspective in or that sort of 30,000 foot thing. We can joke about it all the time. That doesn't do anything. But I hope at least one of the 100 points you give me per conversation, at least 1 point I get you to step out of Adam for just a half a second. That would be amazing.
This is some really new territory for me. It's like stuff that I'm kind of exploring for the first time, and I guess I'm kind of probing for people who have like a little bit more experience with the sorts of things I'm dealing with. I'm just pointing out to people, these patterns of like how we fail to own our own emotional reality, and then that becomes this kind of squirting behavior, pussing behavior.
Build up, build up, build up, build up, dump, build up, build up, build up, build up,
Yeah,
dump. Just leave this
right.
open. Leave this
Yeah,
open and it doesn't build up. Well,
yeah.
I left it open and I said, I don't like it when you leave the toilet seat up. And then they left. They're out of my life. Well, that obviously wasn't the person for you, and you
Yeah.
only get one life. So it may hurt right now for a fraction of a second, but you got it done early. They left. You're the better for it in the long run. Like you only get one go, but
No, I mean that is actually what happened. Is I fell in a toilet because somebody left that seat up, and it's not cool. I don't like it.
I was trying to keep the toilet seat up veiled, but yeah, for the audience at home, we spoke for an hour about how Adam's tushy got wet with toilet water.
Uh, it wasn't just toilet water. There were like shit skids all over the toilet, and I was
There's
like,
beaver slides
touch it. I had to like really shower. Yeah, there's.
in Montana. There's a lot of the animal beavers that build dams and stuff, and when they get in the water, they kind of just like lay down and slide in. So on the side of the river, there's like parts that you'll have grass, and then just like a muddy slick where the beaver keeps going in. It's like tail dragging and everything. I don't know whose mom it was, but they said the little like shit soil in little boy's underwear was a beaver slide.
Or a little girl.
Then I said that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just a little like
Because
whatever.
that can be the front too. I think technically that can be a beaver slide.
Well, and that's what I was getting at.
Oh,
As an
okay,
adult,
okay.
I said I made some sort of joke. It wasn't a real situation. It was an ethereal, like, oh yeah, it was like a beaver slide. Like, you mean like someone's vagina? Like, do it? Like, oh, I was a grown man before I even considered the correlation between the animal and this talking about dirty underwear. Like, oh, I suppose that. Yeah, I should stop saying that.
Skid marks was common too. Skid marks.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
motorcycle like came to a stop and left some
Yeah.
rubber on the pavement. What I think there's a third one too. Is there not another one for
Oh, I'm
for
sure there's a thousand.
skiddy pants? Yeah. Let us know in the
Beaver
comments
slide.
what you call your dirty, stinky underwear. Rethinking, unthinking, religious concepts, spiritual concepts, kind of trying to make a system that kind of makes more sense to human beings living in today's world, being genuine and real about how they feel, what they think, not buying into something, but just like, well, what could we possibly do with this material?
Sounds great.
And I didn't sleep a wink, so that explains my energy level. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Catch us next time. Like, subscribe. Couple of my social insurance over on Discord. I hope you had a wonderful time.
Ooh.
1 second. I mean, if it's ruined, it's ruined already.
Can it bar?
Bugle of an elk. Like what it sounds like. Yeah. It's soundtrack to my life. And the song of the Western Meadowlark. Yeah.
Got him?
Kind of R2D2-ish.
Come on, quit sitting there on your duff. It's pretty R2D2-ish.
All I want to do is just give you a little piece of this candy bar. I know you hungry. I know you hungry. Why don't you just take a little bite off of this candy bar?
What's it called? The putrid stage? Or
It's actually a pretty good Corey Feldman.
Gremlins 1, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Oh, they end up losing in Gremlins 2.
Who's losing? The
Gremlins 1.
Oh.
You know what I did? Once again, your fantastic host, James, who has 2 arms and 3 legs, and...
Adam, he knows the whole theme to Gremlins 1 and 2.
Oh, maybe
I know both movies. I can do both movies.
Were you ever attracted at all to the female gremlin?
I think I was fucking disgusted. I think it was psychologically like weird. Yeah, that's right. She she got aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. I will say that there was a bit of attraction there because she had anthropomorphized mammary glands. Okay, I'm 10.
I'm not going to pretend that I'm above like being attracted to like cartoon bunnies or anything like that. But
But I didn't want to.
you're my brother.
when you called me genetic
Don't
garbage.
be afraid. Daryl, you're not garbage. You're my brother.
Fucking Junior?
Pumping iron.
Oh, no. That was the one where he was pregnant. What was the one where they were brothers?
Twins.
Twins.
Yeah, he was
Junior and twins.
I'm going to have a baby.